Hello, this is Carrie again. I just finished up a little tour of my front yard, and now we're moving on to the backyard. The tulips are starting to come up. There's a sad little allium or two that I had almost killed. There looks to be some daffodil foliage, and there's still some crocuses that are up here in the backyard because it seems it's at least 2 weeks behind the front yard in its blooming. So let's take a look. We're going to start from the top. So I just have this little extra overflow planter, and things continue to come up. You can see that some of these tulips are going to be orange, and there's some little crocuses in there. There's a purple one hiding in there somewhere, as I recall. There we go. I had lasagna planted this little guy, and boy, when we say lasagna, this is like an Italian feast. These pots have elephant ears and gladiolus and some other things that may or may not come up just given the cold that we've had. But I popped them in there early. So here we are. Let's start with the raised bed. I had found that my 2 pots that I had packed very late with tulips were way too wet and were literally starting to rot. So I pulled everything out. Just about everything was dead. But there were a couple of these bulbs here, which I think are alliums, that are not just simple dried husks. This one here, it's iffy. Is that one gonna stay or go? No, most of them they're just not gonna make it. Here you can see that, I think, but we're gonna try. We'll see. If the hope springs eternal when one has a garden. Right, so we'll give it a chance. If it can live, God bless it. All right, so we've got those flowers back there. Maybe they're alliums. I don't know what they are. Maybe they're daffodils. Maybe they are the daffodils, in fact. And then there's some hyacinths definitely over here. These ones are probably going to be blue ones. But the majority of what's in the backyard is yellow. There's a couple of little leftover tulips, and here, I'll just let you kind of see this is from ground level what's going on. So everything is pretty short, but it's coming up. And then we move to the back. These are for the most part, these are tulips that are growing again from being planted. This would be year 3. They're going to be red. We have a couple of crocuses, just adorable. The crocuses have been a real pleasure to have in the yard because they did offer color, and they offered me hope that there was something that was going to bloom here. There we are again from ground level. Just some little tulips coming up. Here's interesting. These are some of the last ones I planted. These ones might end up being fringed carousel tulips. These adorable little tiny yellow crocus, but all of these little tiny strappy leaves that seem to have a curl to them and a wave and little bits of extra color, those are going to be Lady Jane tulips. They're tiny species tulips. I planted them because I said they would naturalize well in the garden, and I'm counting on it because I put in 100 of those little suckers. So they're poking the foliage out, and we'll see what happens. Kind of excited over here in front of that little stone structure. Maybe you can see that there is a bit of foliage plucking out there. It's a daffodil. If it's what I think it is, it's going to be an Acropolis daffodil, and hopefully there are 10 others that are going to keep it company because they were just beautiful, and I was really hoping they would work. Maybe even here you might be able to see inside of that crocus. Yeah, I mean, the bees are just loving it. So that makes me really happy, and I feel like I'm being helpful to the world in some way by having planted these flowers, whether or not they come up. We've got some perennial phlox, knock on wood, phlox, maybe it'll be perennial. There's a little bit coming out down there. And then here is the sterile crabapple tree. I have brought some apple scab treatment with it because it is, while it is sterile and it won't be dropping its little crab apples all over the place in front of my, hopefully what will be Woodstock yellow hyacinths here. It it just makes the leaves brown and fall off. And it's apparently a disease that one must treat in the very beginning of the year to have any hope of the leaves not falling off. So if it doesn't, like if it happens again this year, which it probably will, I'm just going to rip out this tree and I'm going to put in a flowering Japanese lilac tree instead. But in the meantime, look at these these tulips here. Hopefully you can see they have almost like a dinosaur skin stripe to it. That's like a dark stripe in the middle of the foliage. You know, many little stripes there, and I don't know which ones I've planted. I've always heard, I think that those are more Greggii type of tulips, which I don't think I planted any, but we'll see. And here are the yellow hyacinths. They are starting to come up. Cannot wait to see that. And then planted in among them are these little Lady Jane tulips that will hopefully actually throw up buds. Here we go, a hydrangea that seems to manage to survive with like one leaf that comes up right here in the middle. Here's the dead stuff, and then tulips around it. This, it looks like I popped a daffodil under there possibly. And then you can just see them coming up around the garden. Here's a dappled willow. It is the twin brother of this dappled willow that is enormous. But this dappled willow over here had the benefit of being in the backyard all of last year, while this tiny one that's maybe 2 by 2 was only in for, I think I put it in October. So here's a black lace elderberry here that is looking like it's going to have some little buds. We'll see. If it works, that'll be great. I can see a wasp trying to pick up some mud. Let's see, more flowers. These are snapdragons that seems to have overwintered. Oh yeah, I thought I'd show you this one little tiny daffodil poking out of the ground there. We'll see what kind that is. And now to the back bed. This is the garden bed that my nephew Kyle helped me build. We've got everything from hyacinth that's poking up right here to some crocus. You can see tulips. We've got one little grape hyacinth is poking up there. I tried to just pop different, just about, you know, maybe not quite one of every plant in the backyard, but I really wanted to see how they did differently in the ground versus in this raised bed. And so each one of these and you can see it's kind of planted row style. That was intentional, where it's one type of tulip or daffodil in each area, just planted right across in rows. So we'll see how they do. Right now it looks like things are coming up. And yet again, it's so cute. This is a tulip, I think, or a daffodil that's just starting to peek out of the ground. You can see just how red it is. But it will, and then back here it gets less sun, so you can still see that where it doesn't get as much sun, it's going to stay more red. And there's even a little bit of water hanging out in there, I think from the other day when I watered. Well, thank you for joining me here. You're in the backyard at Colorado Tulips, and keep you posted on how this goes.